What would happen if you were sent on a long and unknown journey to a distant world in search of something that may or may not even exist? This is exactly what happens in Borderlands, which was released back in 2009 by 2K back on the Xbox 360, PS3 and PC. After many years and some quality of life improvements added later on, I was curious to see how Borderlands holds up 14 years later. So come with me on this little quest to Pandora. As you arrive on Pandora, you are dropped off by Marcus, a money-making aficionado, and this is where you get to pick one of the 4 characters. You have Mordecai the Hunter, who specializes in sniper rifles and pistols, and has his lovable pet Bloodwing to assist him in battle. There is Brick the Berserker, who specializes in explosive weapons and going full-on berserk mode, which gives him enhanced survivability whilst pummeling the enemies to death with his bare fists. We have the Siren known as Lilith, whose specialty is submachine guns and elemental weapons, and having the ability to phase walk, which lets her shift around unscathed by enemy fire for a few seconds and leaving a deadly elemental blast when phasing back into reality. Finally, you have the character that I'd chosen for this playthrough, Roland the Soldier. Roland specializes in assault rifles and shotguns, and having a friendly auto turret he can just throw out to help aid his team in battle. Once you select one of these characters, you are met by Claptrap, who gives you the basic rundown of the controls and takes you to a new use station, which is where you will respawn after you are defeated in a firefight. But also here, you are able to rename your character and change parts of their attire and colors. By the way, I know I said I picked Roland, but the footage I captured for this start part here is just purely Mordecai. I just wanted to capture the footage. I played through the whole thing as Roland. Shortly after this, you meet up with Dr. Zed, TK Baha, and a variety of other characters throughout the entire game, and this is where you can take your time and take it at your own pace. Borderlands is an action RPG with hundreds upon thousands of weapon variants which are randomly generated as you go on. Things that factor into this are damage output, the rate of fire, magazine capacity, if the weapon deals a form of elemental damage, what sort of elemental damage it will do, and level that you need to be to use it. The same can be said for the various types of overshields and grenades found throughout the game as well. Writing has always been known to be top tier, for the most part, in the Borderlands series with how witty the dialogue is and how the various voice actors deliver it. But ultimately, the game is just constant fetch quests until you reach the final conclusion at the vault. I didn't mind this though, and to see how much more varied the mission structure gets in later titles in the series, I didn't mind it in this one. I find this one to be solid. Whilst almost every mission is a fetch quest of go here and kill this man, then come back, or go to this location and pick up X item for me and return it. At the end of the day, it's more about the combat we deal with in these moments, which make it a little less monotonous. Now we get to talk about the gunplay and combat in this game, which goes from fun to frustrating based on your character level and the weapons you find and choose to use. Overall, the weapons feel incredible, but if you decide to run and gun with a shotgun that shoots 4 out of 7 shots per trigger pull and have a really slow reload time, you're gonna have a bad time. Same can be said for assault rifles and sniper rifles, where if you choose the one with the most damage output or highest level, it might just have severely low accuracy, and then that will make for a more difficult time for you in combat. So once you figure out what works best for your sort of playstyle, whether it's up close and personal or staying back and spraying from afar, you will thoroughly enjoy the game more. Weapons do sound incredibly punchy, and I found by the end of the playthrough I had just stuck to a scoped assault rifle for the majority of the endgame. About 10 or so hours into my playthrough, I found a character mod in a chest which allows my ammunition to slowly regenerate in the weapon I currently had equipped. This gave me the ability to stick to the assault rifle and never run out of ammo. The rifle also had a high fire rate, was scoped, and had close to 95% bullet accuracy. There was a skill point I had unlocked, which the 4 character types have different skill trees by the way. I will get into that. That made it so if I had killed an enemy, for the next 15 seconds my rate of fire was doubled. So stacking that onto the infinitely refilling ammo, the quick reload speed of the weapon, and the insane accuracy, I didn't want or need to use anything else. Enemy variety is also solid throughout the game because you have your typical soldiers, you have more brute-like enemies that are more bullet sponges, there are flaming melee suiciders, shotgun-wielding midgets, and you have a variety of different scrags and antlion-like enemies, and each one you have to approach differently. Some soldiers can throw out turrets or snipe with precise aim from afar. Others move quick like the antlions and are weak if shot in the abdomen, but the more human-like enemies take critical damage if shot in the head. Shoot me in the face! That's a line from Borderlands 2. We'll get there eventually. I also want to briefly mention that the enemies scale up in difficulty with the more players you have, so that it's not just a cakewalk and you're throwing more players at the situation. So the enemies get more difficult, have more health, the more players you have. Unfortunately for me, this playthrough was solo, so I didn't get to experience that myself. Now, as I was saying before, each of the 4 characters you choose from at the beginning of the game have their own skill trees, which unlock perks and abilities and go all the way to level 65, I think. By the end of this initial playthrough, I'd hit level 36 and would love to go back through later on for a second playthrough, and because I think there is an alternative and proper ending when you complete the game for a second time. Compared to later games in the series, the map variety here feels very samey, as it's portraying the world of Pandora as this one huge open wasteland, so get used to seeing sand dunes. Later games in the series feature lush jungles, frozen caverns, and even space, but here in OG Borderlands it all feels very grounded. The size of each area varies as well, with the smaller ones being used for a handful of missions being very straightforward and linear, and others being far more open and needing the use of a vehicle to travel around. You gain access to vehicles very early on thanks to Scooter and his "Catch a Ride" stations, and all you can change is the weapon that is mounted and the color. I stuck to the rocket launcher and pink respectively. How is my Scooter impression, by the way? Let me know. Now, previously when I tried to play this game in the past, it was always on a console, but now in 2023 and playing it on PC, the gunplay feels incredible on a mouse and keyboard, but the driving mechanics took a little bit to get used to. The vehicles drive just like they do in Halo, where you accelerate forward and use the mouse to point in the direction you want to go. If you turn the mouse, the vehicle will turn with it. Like I said, it took a little to get used to, but it was completely functional. So it sounds like I've been praising the game essentially the whole time, right? Well, at its core, it laid the foundation for future entries in the series to expand upon, and it feels like it holds up to this day. There were a few issues I had running the game on my fairly beefy PC. You see, I run an 11th gen i7 paired with a 3070 Ti and 32 gigs of RAM, but it seems that a known issue for the game is that it will just drop frame rate after an unknown period of time. For myself, it was usually after I've been playing for around the 2-hour mark, where the frames would dip to the low 20s, and then a quick exit to desktop and relaunch would fix that. This is fine for situations like myself where I was just playing solo, but I can see how this would be super annoying for anyone that's trying to smash through the game with 3 friends, finally getting into the madness that is Borderlands and having to stop the fun times and relaunch the game just to pick up where they left off. So, Borderlands 14 years after its release is still an incredible game to go back to, especially because it has all the improvements over the years, like how it automatically picks up ammo and money off the ground from fallen enemies, as I remember that being an omission from the game originally around the time of launch. The writing is solid and sometimes witty, the characters mesh well together, but the story is somewhat underwhelming, as it is told via many fetch quests you were given throughout the game. The last few hours I felt it was just go to the vault and kill the boss, and that is what it boiled down to. But if you're feeling nostalgic, can we even call this nostalgic? God, I'm old. Feel free to go back and give the original Borderlands a go, as it is inexpensive and easily accessible. Just be warned about the possible frame rate drops and have some fun shooting people in first person. If you made it this far into the review, thank you so much. Thanks for checking out the video. Like, comment, subscribe if you like this sort of content. It's all new to me, getting reviews back on the channel. Hoping to get some more in. I do stream regularly here on YouTube and over on Twitch, so feel free to follow over there, subscribe over here, do whatever you need to do. I just hope you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on the original Borderlands? Have you played it recently? Did you play it at launch? What console did you play it on? Was it PC like myself? Let me know, just get some engagement going down below. Saturday out.